continuing our spiritual or gems of truth, spiritual wisdom from the words of Jesus, asking God for help. And I've had several experiences throughout my ministerial career of talking to people that feel they have prayed for an answer, prayed for something to resolve. It could be a health challenge, could be a financial challenge, maybe not getting so well at work, or so well along at work, something like that. Some problem comes up and we ask God for help. And I have, on many occasions, had a person be disappointed in the answer. It didn't seem to be the right answer. Didn't seem to be any answer at all. In fact, some people that have prayed for health have passed on. And so we have to look at this and ask, what does it mean to get help from God? And how do we ask for help? What's the state of mind we should be in when we're asking for help? Do we treat God as a person? Most of us grew up with that idea. God is the old man up in the sky, and if you have a need, you ask God. If you are worthy of receiving the answer, you will. If not, you won't. And that's kind of the way a lot of people conclude if they don't get the right answer or get a helpful answer. They figure it must be something in the relationship they're having with God. There's something maybe they need to do to improve that relationship. And so they may dig a little deeper into themselves, and that's a good thing, usually. But it's probably more important to reconsider the nature of God, of the God that we pray to. Because it is, just because we have nearly all of us have received the idea of God as an old man up in the sky or someplace, that we say we have given that up, but we still hang on to it in certain ways. And that's probably because, as the little girl responded to someone, that she wanted a God with skin on, or needed a God with skin on. And I think we all kind of need a God with skin on, which is why we would revert back to thinking of God as the big old man that I ask for help. And I think that's okay to do that if that is our level of understanding, our level of faith, and that is the best thing to do, probably. But we are in a setting like this because we have probably broken away from that. And I'm sure we still carry some of the baggage, some of the artifacts from that thinking. When you step into unity, you will read, or at least I read, in the book Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady, which was considered Unity's basic textbook for many years. You read that God is law. God is love. God is power. God is life. But God is not an old man in the sky. So when we pray to a God that is law, how do we do that? What's that mean? And we have to readjust our thinking. And in that readjustment, we find that Jesus had many things to say that actually address that adjustment, that readjustment. But we didn't hear it before because we were thinking of God as the old man in the sky. So what he says here, he's talking about prayer and about answer to prayer. He says, or what man of you, if his son asks him for bread, would give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, will give him a serpent? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? He's kind of laying a whole new foundation here. Asking God for help is not a hit and miss proposition. We either are in compliance with that or we're not. And it has been believed for ages that if we do certain things, we will be pleasing to God and God will respond more to us. But if we think of God as law, would that be true? Would we think if we tripped on the sidewalk and fell down, that if we said nice things about gravity, that wouldn't happen again, because gravity would treat us a little kinder, might somehow alert us to the crack in the sidewalk so we wouldn't trip. So if you think of gravity, you think of law. You don't think of gravity as having this personality that judges you, that one day likes you and the next day makes you trip because you don't live up to its standards. If you trip and fall down, you don't break the law of gravity, you actually fulfill it. Just not in a way that you want. You get an answer you're not looking for. But you don't do anything to damage or change the law of gravity. It is a constant. And so what you want to do is be more mindful of how you walk. Watch your step. It's nothing personal. It's just the way it is. It's a very good thing to have, gravity. And so Jesus is kind of pointing this out, that you don't ask God for one thing and get something totally different, something that would be harmful to you. And you'll say, well, I've done that though. I've gotten something that's not so good. I've asked God for help and not seemed to have gotten it. I've asked for bread and I got a stone. I asked for fish and got a serpent. What is that? And so that's what we want to look at. What Jesus did here is lay out a principle, a foundation for how we think of God. God doesn't give us bad things. I was talking to somebody not too long ago that was going down this whole litany of things that God piled on them. And why? I'm a good person. I've done all the right things. I pray. I read. I'm good to other people. Why would I keep having these problems? Why would God keep doing this to me? And that, I think, is the wrong question to ask. We need to bring our thought back more into, what are we projecting? What am I doing? How do I see myself? How do I see God? Do I see God as this ice cream man driving around? If I have the money, he'll give me something I want. Or do we see God as simply responding to who we think we are? Not going outside of that, but giving us the world that we envision all day long. And that's what we want to look at. The gem of truth here is that God doesn't give us things we don't ask for. We just start with that as a premise. If you've got something going on in your life right now that is difficult for you, stop thinking of that as something God is giving you to either test you or, like Job went through this whole litany of things that his whole life was basically destroyed. And, Satan and God, the devil and God were talking prior to this, and the devil was saying, you think Job's such a hot shot. If he were put to the test, I bet he would abandon you right away. God says no, that he wouldn't do that. He's a good guy. And so they start inflicting things on Job. And if you don't know, by the way, this helps make this story make a lot more sense. Job was a play. It was a play. It's not a story that we are to look at, in terms of this is something that actually happened. It's a play designed to raise the question, but it never answers it. Why do the righteous suffer? Job is this good person. There's nothing that he's doing that makes him deserve any of the stuff that happens, but it all happens. And in the story, it's a test. Satan is putting him to the test to prove that to God that this guy is not as righteous as you think he is. Well, Job does pass the test. He goes through the whole thing and still maintains his faith, though he suffers tremendously. And so that, in a sense, is one of the lessons from that whole story is hold on. But it's not that God or the devil or any power outside of yourself is inflicting you with these things as a test. I'm a good person. Why am I being tested? If we say that God does not cause suffering, God does not give us burdens, then that takes that off the table. So if there's something going on in my life that's not working so well, I turn the focus. Why do we pray for one thing and get its apparent opposite? So I play guitar. I've been playing since I was 9 years old, a long time. And what I have discovered every time I pick it up is that you can play the right chord, but if you have a string that's out of tune, the chord doesn't sound right. You don't get the answer that you seek when you strum a guitar. The answer is a harmonious chord. There's nothing wrong with the guitar. There's nothing wrong with the principles of music. But there's something in the tuning that needs to be fixed. Something that can be fixed. And so we tune up that string, and we find that when we play the same chord, do exactly the same thing, we get a different result. There's no punishment involved. It's a principle. It's a principle of music. If the strings are not in tune with each other, and you play a particular chord, you won't get the result that you want. You get an unpleasant sound. Many people can't hear that. The longer you play, the more you hear. And in a way, the longer we're in this work, this way of thought, the more sensitive we become to the outcomes or to the way our life looks like it's unfolding. We want one thing and it's going a different direction. So when we start with that idea, we're saying God is law. Music is law. I'm not being punished. There's nothing wrong with anything I've done to bring this about. Maybe I left my guitar in a cool room and the strings got colder and they changed their tone, or too hot or something like that. But that's not punishment. The guitar just goes out of tune and it can be brought back into tune. And so we're saying the principle of music is not giving us a stone when we're asking for bread. It's not giving us something we're not asking for. It is up to us to bring the instrument back into tune. And that's true with us as individuals. If you pray for a solution, then rack your brain trying to come up with the answer. You have a string out of tune. It's a different setting, but it's exactly the same principle. And I think this is what this person was going through, is trying to figure out why God was doing all these things, racking their brain. Praying for one thing, saying, here's what has to happen, but racking their brain trying to come up with something else. So that's really not prayer as we think of it, because prayer is to make an adjustment. It's adjusting our mind to what is true. When I approach my guitar that's out of tune, I have no judgment about that. That guitar didn't go out of tune because it's angry at me, because I did something wrong to it, and I'm being punished. It's getting back at me for something. I don't think that way at all. I just think maybe these strings are getting old, or the temperature changed, something's different. But it's not personal. It could happen to the best guitar player in the world, which does not happen to be me. It happens to everybody that plays an instrument. It just happens. Nothing personal. So you're praying for one thing and you're getting mixed results, so you pray a little harder. And the string starts going out of tune because you're praying a little harder. You're saying, well, maybe God didn't hear me, or maybe I didn't say it quite right. And so you pray a little harder. You affirm, you make more affirmations. You already had 10 on your refrigerator, now you got 20. Trying to get God's attention. And again, that would be like trying to get the principle of music's attention because my guitar's out of tune. I can't quite get it in tune. It's not an approach that works. It just makes things worse. If I felt that my guitar could punish me for something, then I wouldn't have much of a chance. Because how do I know how a guitar thinks? How do I know how God thinks? If I think God could be punishing me for something I've done wrong. So that's the first step, is get that out of our thought. God will not give us a stone when we ask for bread. That's the gem of truth. It doesn't happen. But if I'm getting a stone, there is an answer to that. And the answer is in probably my own consciousness, my own perception. That there is something I can do to change. So Jesus said, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe you've received it. That's a simple statement, but it's a very high standard. Because if you believe you've received something and yet there's the stone, you didn't believe hard enough, you didn't believe correctly. What's that mean? It just means that you are not patient enough with the process or understanding enough of the process. Maybe that stone has dropped into your life for a reason. Maybe it's part of the answer. Maybe it's causing you to take a deeper look at yourself. Maybe it's helping you understand that God didn't give it to you. Maybe it's a projection of your own thought and emotion. Not something God did at all. God is forever in a process of expansion through us. It is in God's best interest for us to be open and receptive to greater expansion. But if we're saying, God, why did you do this to me? What are you trying to teach me here? What are you trying to get me to learn? Why did you give me this stone? We'll probably never get the right answer, never get a good answer. So we back up to what Jesus said. Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe you've received it. You let go of that dialogue. Why is this happening? Let go of it. Remember what I talked about last week. Why was this man born blind? Did his parents sin or did he sin? Jesus said it doesn't matter. Start right now. Start where you are. It doesn't matter how much you know or don't know. Whatsoever you ask for in prayer, believe you've received it. Because you're dealing with law. You are putting your consciousness in harmony with the answer that you seek. Now, does that answer have to unfold in a specific way that you recognize? That may be a problem. And that may be what that thing that looks like a stone, it may not be a stone at all. It may be something that is prompting you to look a little deeper in yourself. So we start with that idea that God's not going to give me something I'm not asking, something that would be harmful to me, something that would hurt me. Whatsoever you ask for in prayer, believe you've received it. You sit down and you become still. And by that I mean you stop asking. You stop looking for answers. You stop trying to figure this out in your mind. And you accept that you have already received that which you're asking for. What's that feel like? When your prayer is answered, don't you experience peace? Isn't peace what you're looking for? That's what we're all looking for. You could summarize every answer to prayer as peace of mind, because that's what we're always looking for. You're praying for a lot of money, praying for a new job, praying for healing, praying for harmony in a relationship, praying that you'll meet your soulmate. What you want to do is arrive at a place where resolution has been achieved and you're at peace. But Jesus said, whatsoever you ask for in prayer, and really what we're always asking for in prayer is peace. Believe you've received it. So what this is saying is, why not go for the peace first? Why not sit quietly by ourselves, let go of all of the questions, let go of the appearance, the problem, and allow ourselves to know it is all unfolding in divine order. Every step I take is the right step. That which I need is now unfolding. I am at peace. Why not have the peace first? Why not allow ourselves to experience that? Because we make peace conditional. This problem must first be resolved, then I will be peaceful. Isn't that how we normally think? That's how I normally think. As I have said, there's a difference in normality and being natural. It's not natural. What is natural for us is to live in a state of peace. But we have become so unnatural. We put so many conditions on our peace of mind. And it's totally understandable. That's why we do it. This has to be resolved before I'll be at peace. But what we find the problem with that is we resolve it, we have our peace, and then something else pops up. It's a never-ending thing. It's called life. It's called living. It's called showing up. And so we're on this treadmill forever. And if we forget that principle, whatsoever you ask for in prayer, believe you've received it. And what are you asking for? You're asking for peace. And don't just believe you've received it, actually receive it. Allow yourself to receive it, to experience peace. It's not that difficult. You sit down, you let go, you might read a few paragraphs of something that's inspirational to you to get your mind in that place. And there's so many things, as I said last week, I think, on YouTube, and there's a lot of old books, spiritual books. Joel Goldsmith is a good one. There's all of his lectures, I think, are on YouTube. And Emmett Fox. There's all kinds of people. Judge Thomas Chord, not the people themselves, but people talking about their teachings or reading from their books or whatever. There's all kinds of inspirational things. If you don't feel like you can sit down and read, listen. Let someone remind you of the truth. And you can watch yourself change just in a few moments. You'll go from fear and depression to hope and inspiration. That you were looking in one direction for the answer to the prayer that you been praying, and it can come in 1,000 ways. Are we that intelligent to know how our prayers should be answered? To know all the mechanics, all the things that must fall in place for that to work out? Or do we understand there is a divine intelligence that is working through the body of our life in the same way it works through this body? We don't know how it works through this body. We don't know how healing occurs. But there's something keeping the body in balance all the time. And when that gets out of balance, it's probably an emotional thought structure someplace that needs to be let go. Jesus said, your faith has made you whole. What's that mean? When he was with somebody that was healed, everybody attributes the healing to Jesus. Jesus never did do that. He attributed the healing to the faith of the individual. So we sit down to be still And we're opening our minds to the answer that we seek. And what is the first answer we seek is peace of mind. Are there any barriers between peace and where we are now? The only barrier is our own thought. You sit down and you close your eyes, your mind runs off trying to solve this problem or making it worse. And if you can't sit down and bring your mind to some sense of center, don't try it. Don't get into that battle. You'll never succeed. Get up, go about your business, do something else, come back. And you'll find the right time to sit down and do this. But peace is never taken away from us. It's a fundamental of our being. Peace is our being. Our soul is always at peace. And that's really what we're doing. We're moving from the self-image to the soul. We're bringing ourselves into ourself. The kingdom of God is within you. It is you. That which you are is always at peace. And that helps also. That's why God can't give us something we don't ask for. Because we are the answer. The soul is the answer. Acknowledging, experiencing that level of our being, the deepest level of our being, is what we're looking for. That's the peace. And we bring that into our daily life. So you've got this thing going on that's been disturbing you. You sit down, you find some peace. And you bring that into the situation. You get up, go about your business, and you bring that sense of peace into the situation. I've asked the question before, if you were having a problem and somebody comes into your life that is totally frantic, totally buys into it, or you have someone that comes into your life that is at peace and offers some constructive suggestions, which one would you rather talk to? So when you are at peace, you cause everything around you to resonate with that same peace. And you'll see things you didn't see before. You'll see things you can't see when you're frantic. So you actually get the answer to your prayer right off the bat. That's the first goal, is get your answer, peace of mind. Carry that peace of mind into the problem, into the challenge, into whatever you're dealing with. So if you pray for a solution, then rack your brain trying to come up with the answer, you have a string out of tune. When you pray for a solution, expect this solution or something better to unfold in perfect order. That's the peace. This or something better. When I have a problem, I usually have an answer. I usually know what I think needs to be done. But I have found it's much more freeing to say this, the thing I think should be done, or something even better. It opens you to a higher level of experience, and it maintains your peace. This or something better, so when this doesn't show up like you think it should, something else happens. Instead of going to this place of, oh, what is this? This is not working out. You say the something better is working out. The something better is unfolding. This actually happened with this land. As it was first presented, my first reaction was not this. This is not the answer we're seeking. But as I let it go, let it unfold, open my mind, I think it's one of the best possible solutions, the best kind of buyer that we could possibly have. I think it's pretty amazing. So my first reaction in that case, and you can plug yourself into this, your first reaction to anything when it is resistance, you need to tune your strings. The ball is always in your court. And what's that mean? It means you back off. And you say, this answer that I seek or something better. And I'm letting that occur right now. I'm letting that unfold. When you pray for a solution, expect this solution or something better to unfold in perfect order.